Welcome to Professor Pincushion. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create the flat felled seam. Now the nice thing about this seam is that it can be created either on the wrong side of your garment or the right side. I show two different examples here. This one was on the wrong side and this one is on the right side. The flat felled seam is perfect for when you're doing your trousers or you're making clothes for your kids because it's a really durable seam that you can create. So let's get started and see what we can do in order to make this. The flat felled seam to start off with is just like any other seam. Now what makes it unique is that you can do it as you would do a normal seam with you take two pieces and you place them right side to right side, and then I would stitch whatever your seam allowance is up here. So for me, I'm just going to do 5/8 of an inch. Or if you want it for style reasons to appear on the right side, I would place them wrong side to wrong side and do a stitch. So then we're going to have this all folded over and it's going to look all neat. So it could appear on the right side of your garment if you wish, but I'm just going to go ahead and do the normal one, right side to right side. I'm just going to pin and I'm going to stitch a 5/8 inch seam allowance up here. You can see my seam here with the pink thread that I stitch in at the 5/8 inch seam allowance. And what you're going to do is press your seam open. Sure you get a really good press there. I'm going to flip it over to the right side and press that side as well because I want it to be as neat as possible. Alright, now that that's pressed, even though we pressed it open, you're going to press your seam allowance to one side. So I'm going to take all this and I'm going to press it in this direction. Like that, and that's how it's going to stay, pressed like that. Now that it's pressed, we're now going to be trimming one side of our seam allowance. So I always press mine to the right. There's no rules to this, but I just like doing it to the right. So whatever seam allowance is on the bottom, that's the one you're going to trim. So if I open this up, I'm going to be trimming this one, not this one. If I had pressed it this way, this one is on the bottom, so I would be trimming this one, not this one. But since I went this way, I'm going to trim this one, and you're going to trim it so that it's half of whatever's left here. So since we did 5/8 of an inch, I'm just going to trim it so that there's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to flip it like this so it's a little bit easier because I don't want to cut any of my other fabric. I just want to cut this seam allowance that's on the bottom here. So I'm going to trim this. So I'm just leaving on a 1/4 of an inch here. If I was to open the seam back up, you would see that this side is trimmed, this side is still untrimmed. So what we're going to do on the side that's untrimmed, you're going to fold over about 1/8 of an inch and you're going to press it. So all along the whole seam on the untrimmed side, go ahead, turn it over 1/8 of an inch and press it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this side that has the pressed fold and you're going to fold it over so that it covers the trim side. So again, I would be pressing it to the right. So I'm pressing it all this way. And you can see now, here is my original seam line, and this side is folded and it's covering up the trim side of my seam allowance. After I fold and press everything down, I just go ahead and stick straight pins in there to hold it. And then I'm going to stitch right alongside that fold line here, right on the inside of the fold. And you can just do a regular width stitch. Don't forget to do your back stitches. And I'm getting pretty close to that fold line, being careful that I'm not actually going over onto this side. So it's all going to be stitched into place. And we will not see any raw edges, so it'll look really nice and neat. So I finished my stitches. It's right here, right along the top of the fold. This right here is my original stitching. And so I'm going to show you what it looks like on the right side, and actually I did it on a different fabric, so it'd be a little bit easier to see. So here's our original seam line. This is what it would look like on the right side. And here's the stitching that we did along the fold up at the top. So on this side, you can see you have your seam line, but you only see one row of stitches on the right side. Now, if I was to do it the opposite way, so when I started, I put my fabric wrong side to wrong side, so it would end up on the right side of my garment, then it's going to end up something like this. So this is my original stitch line right here, and then I did the same exact thing where I cut one side, folded over, so this is folded over the short side, and you can see my second row of stitches right here in the white, right along the top of that fold line. And if you look at some of your trousers or pants, you should see similar stitches like this, where you have 2 rows of stitches, and it really creates a nice durable seam line. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 150 sewing video tutorials. New tutorials are released regularly, so make sure to subscribe to be notified of the next release. Thanks for watching!